Following the tragic death of movie icon Jayne Mansfield, her ex-husband Mickey Hargitay had to pick up the pieces by first identifying her body and then raising their children without her. Born Mickey Hargitay in 1926, not much is known about the Hungarian native's early life, but what is known is pretty wild, and some of that is due to Hargitay himself. We know that he was born in a Budapest suburb, and that as a youth he performed in the circus alongside his father, who was an acrobat. But other stories about Hargitay are harder to pin down. Some claim that he had won international speed skating races and that he had been a resistance fighter in Hungary during World War II. According to the Hungarian Free Press, though, Hargitay made up the story about being a resistance fighter. Similarly, though, he claimed to have an engineering degree that was also apparently fabricated. In 1947, Hargitay made the life-changing decision to leave his homeland and emigrate to America. To hear him tell it, it was a choice born from necessity, as life behind the new Iron Curtain was quickly becoming oppressive, forcing him to leave his parents and his siblings behind. In Jayne Mansfield, a biography, writer May Mann asked Hargitay about the circumstances of his emigration. He explained that he had been wrapping up a degree in psychology from the University of Budapest when things started going downhill. He said, "I was to be drafted for the army and sent to Russia for 4 years. I escaped and was captured 3 different times. After many attempts, I finally reached America, and 2 years later, I became a citizen." Like many immigrants, Hargitay relied on skills learned in the old country once he settled in his new homeland. He and his first wife, Mary Burge, supplemented the income he made as a handyman by performing an acrobatics routine in Indianapolis nightclubs, using moves he would later show off with his second wife, Jayne Mansfield, as well. Hargitay then turned to bodybuilding, and it didn't take long before he got noticed in a big way. Soon he was appearing on the covers of magazines like Iron Man, and in 1955 he won the Mr. Universe contest. This was a surprisingly big deal, not just for Hargitay personally, but for the entire bodybuilding community. Bodybuilding historian and photographer Jean Mansfield told the Los Angeles Times that Hargitay's influence on bodybuilding can't be overstated, saying, "Back in those days, bodybuilding was thought of as a freakish, unusual activity that wasn't popular with the general public. At that time, athletic coaches discouraged lifting weights, thinking you'd become muscle-bound. And along came Mickey Hargitay, a great all-around athlete." Arnold Schwarzenegger told the Los Angeles Times that Hargitay was his idol and role model, saying, "When I came to this country in 1968, he was one of the first people I wanted to meet." It was a cover of Strength and Health magazine that brought Hargitay to the attention of Hollywood icon Mae West. At the time, she was past the racy movies of her heyday, but that definitely hadn't taken the edge off of her often ribald performances. Post-World War II, she was renowned for stage shows featuring scantily clad men. After she saw Mickey Hargitay on that magazine cover, she recruited him. Then, in 1956, he was picked out of the crowd by none other than Jayne Mansfield. When she saw him for the first time while he was performing on stage with Mae West, Mansfield was immediately smitten.
When the waiter came over, she said, "I'd like a steak and that man on the right."
As May Mann recounts in the biography Jayne Mansfield, Hargitay and Mansfield were immediately inseparable, but the movie companies who held Mansfield's contract weren't happy. She was, after all, still technically married, and that was a kind of publicity they really didn't want. Add in the fact that they didn't see Hargitay as being Hollywood enough for the glamorous Mansfield, and it seemed like everyone had a reason why it shouldn't have been more than a fling. None of that mattered, though, and Mansfield would explain, "I knew I wanted Mickey 10 minutes after we were introduced. It's like I've been pulling a huge wagon alone. Now there will be 2 of us." Hargitay divorced his first wife in 1956 and married Mansfield in 1958, and their wedding was an almost ridiculous spectacle. The Mansfield-Hargitay wedding was such a big deal that the media reported on even the smallest details, and it was really no wonder. According to May Mann's book, Jayne Mansfield, hundreds of invitations were sent out to a list of who's who in Hollywood, and still more were dropped from the sky via helicopter. On the day of the wedding, police were called in to control the crowds of people who showed up hoping to get a glimpse of the happy couple, directing traffic and attempting to keep damage to a minimum.
Thousands of fans showed up, really, and I saw no one but Jayne.
In a way, it was a sign of things to come. The happiest couples are on the same page about their future, but while Mansfield relished the attention and celebrated the idea of an upcoming Vegas show telling the story of her life, Hargitay had different ambitions. Mansfield told Mann that Hargitay wanted to open a Hungarian restaurant, a line of gas stations, and his own series of health stores and fitness clubs. It wasn't long after Mickey Hargitay's marriage to Jayne Mansfield that they purchased a perfectly ordinary White House on Sunset Boulevard for $76,000. That was the last ordinary thing about the home that would come to be known as the Pink Palace. First, the home was outfitted with around $150,000 worth of furniture that Mansfield got in trade for personal appearances. Tributes from adoring fans also poured in, including a bed that was donated by Laguna Beach's police department. The house also required a considerable amount of work to be done in order to get it up to Mansfield standards, and to turn the entire thing various shades of pink. Most of the work was done by Mickey Hargitay himself. He painted, he plastered, and he even built and tiled a heart-shaped pool.
Jayne wanted pink. Pink, everything pink. She loved pink.
And pink was definitely everywhere, including the shag carpeting that covered the walls and ceiling, as well as the floor in her bathroom. Hargitay arranged for a champagne fountain in the living room, Cupid decor throughout, and gardens his wife likened to those found at Versailles. Shortly after Mickey Hargitay and Jayne Mansfield married, she became pregnant with their first child. 2 more followed, and publicly the press celebrated their happy marriage. But behind the scenes, things got rocky as Mansfield longed for excitement rather than domestic bliss. She told May Mann, "I need stimulation. So far Mickey has been everything to me that I need, but now he is turning into just a husband. There's no incentive." Shortly after, she filed for divorce. He didn't tell Hargitay, though. He only found out when he arrived at home to find reporters gathered for Mansfield's press conference about the split. They briefly reconciled, but when Mansfield began an affair with movie producer Enrico Bamba, the writing was on the wall. Hargitay reportedly gave her an ultimatum. She responded by filing for divorce again. This time it went through, and the two officially parted ways in 1964. In June 1967, Jayne Mansfield was tragically killed in a terrible car accident outside of New Orleans. All 3 children from her marriage to Hargitay were sleeping in the back seat of the car and miraculously survived. Hargitay immediately made the trip to New Orleans to join them. He was there so quickly, in fact, that he was ultimately the one called in to identify her body. He had to face the press the next day. Mansfield's death was sudden and completely unexpected, and to say her personal affairs were not in order would be a massive understatement. Hargitay was still the beneficiary of her life insurance policy, and those who were closest to her stayed in the Pink Palace while things got sorted out. And that's where the stories of her ghost come in. According to the book Jayne Mansfield, there were a series of strange occurrences that happened in the days and weeks after Mansfield's death, including another minor car accident involving Hargitay. Fueled by stories about her associations with Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan, many latched onto the idea that the devil had infected the house. And the strange occurrences continued even after the house had been bought and sold multiple times. Allegedly, when Ringo Starr bought the house, he had the house repainted, yet it still mysteriously returned to pink. After Mansfield's death, Hargitay raised their 3 children, Mickey Hargitay Jr., Mariska Hargitay, and Zoltan Hargitay, with his 3rd wife, Ellen Hargitay, whom he remained married to for 38 years until his death in 2006. It's only been recently that his most famous daughter, Law & Order SVU star Mariska Hargitay, has spoken about her upbringing. Good Housekeeping spoke with Mariska about her own decision to adopt, and she said that her father and stepmother had a large part to play in cementing her firm belief that family was about much more than blood. "I called her mom. She really claimed us. She never had biological kids of her own, and to this day, we are her kids." In other interviews, Mariska has painted a picture of everything a father should be. In Glamour, she talked about his insistence that she have a childhood of volleyball games and school sports, and how it didn't matter where he was or what he was doing. His children came first, unconditionally. And in People, she credited him for giving her wisdom and emotional intelligence. Mickey Jr. has shared memories of his father, too. According to the Los Angeles Times, he found his calling at a young age and opened a plant store. He has since built it into a wildly successful business, and he credits his father for making it his job to care for the family's plants. Though Hargitay wasn't an actor by trade, he still ended up having an odd and interesting film and television career, mostly due to his relationship with Jayne Mansfield. The two co-starred in 4 movies together, including Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter, the decidedly adult film Promises, Promises, and The Loves of Hercules, which was so bad it was never released in the United States before receiving the Mystery Science Theater 3000 treatment. Following his divorce from Mansfield, Hargitay also starred in Bloody Pit of Horror, which cast him against the backdrop of a terrifying castle, and an excuse to surround him with scantily clad ladies destined to meet a terrible end at the hands of a madman. Sounds like it's of questionable taste? That's likely. It was supposed to have been based on the X-rated writings of the Marquis de Sade.
They desecrated your world of beauty with their sordidness.
Hargitay's acting career wasn't filled completely with B-movies, though, and in 2003, he starred in his final role opposite his daughter in an episode of Law & Order SVU. Hargitay said, "I enjoyed my career. I never wanted to be any more than what I was, and I had fun doing it." In 2006, Mickey Hargitay passed away at the age of 80 from multiple myeloma, a rare blood cancer that affects bone marrow. In the Times, Hargitay was paid perhaps the most ideal of compliments. In addition to being lauded for his business sense, his devotion to his family, and his work in promoting health and fitness, He was remembered as a genuine, down-to-earth person by Iron Man publisher John Balick, who said, "He was the epitome of the word gentleman. The kind of feeling you got from him was just a really genuine guy. He had a lot of accolades and success in life, but you never felt that. They didn't call him Mr. Universe for nothing."